Today I'm going to try to draw this flower, which I believe is a yellow hyacinth, in Shrewsbury, England. And we have been here before, you and I. This is not the first time I've sat down and tried to draw a flower close up. And it surely won't be the last, but as I know, and maybe you do too, these tend not to work out so well. Will this one finally break that streak? I guess we'll find out. But no, not really. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm learning to draw while I travel the world. Like and subscribe if that sounds interesting to you. Okay, so thanks to the previously mentioned streak, I knew what things might negatively affect this drawing before I even started. Usually, it's things like shading, depth, and the general composition. I don't think I've had too hard a time with shapes. In fact, I think that's probably the best part, my favorite part of drawing stuff like this. Seeing these little bell shapes up close is actually what draws me in and makes me want to, capture them. But it's those other things that make that the shape kind of pointless. It doesn't really matter how nicely I draw the silhouette of one little flower if everything surrounding it falls apart. All that said, an awareness of the pitfalls doesn't necessarily mean that I won't still fall in. So with the shading, which ends up making or breaking this type of thing, in my opinion, the pen leaves a lot to be desired. Had I worked with a pencil or paint, which I talk about all the time, I think I'd have a fighting chance. But with pen, I feel super limited. Maybe that's silly. Maybe my hypothetical painting would be a horror to behold, but I think you get what I mean. The pen is a binary instrument, and I find like the soft gradations between light and dark difficult to achieve. And then there's depth. So as you can see, there's practically no empty space between any of the flowers, which means there's just more flowers back there. Do I draw those lines? Do I imply them somehow? Do I shade all of that in? I genuinely don't know. What I do know is that the first option, to simply draw them, would not have worked. The pen, a binary instrument, as we've established, can also be a crude one in the wrong hand, my hand, my hands. And by applying line after delicate line, the unfortunate result is one of confusion and chaos, probably. So anyway, implying the depth of this flower, both internally as well as externally with its conical shape, can be a pain in the neck. But I did my best, and I opted to shade in the internal and ignore the external. That would come back to shading, which I found really hard, as you already know. Lastly, there's the composition of the flower as a whole. And what I mean by that is the broader shape, which doesn't sound that difficult. But for me, it is. I guess you could just draw the whole thing in silhouette with one solid line all the way around. But for me, that would be even more confusing because I'd still want to break it up into its smaller parts. And I think those two things would clash, but I don't know. Maybe that would work. What I did was just try to keep track of those small parts the whole way through and hope that they filled out the rough idea of the general shape I had in mind. Did it? No, not really. So what did happen here? How did the drawing go and how did it feel? Well, I'll tell you this. My hope for keeping things reasonably realistic is often at odds with my ability to do so. Additionally, being critical of more juvenile or symbolic drawings, which I am, hinders my ability to let loose and interpret my way to said realism. And that leaves me in a tough spot when it comes to something like this. Anyone can draw the icon of a flower, the symbol of a flower, and if you're talented, you can then mold that symbol into something more realistic by using some of the techniques I just talked about. but I'm starting from this super detail-oriented perspective where each little flower here is not even really a flower, but a relationship between light and dark. That way of thinking has given me some of my favorite drawings because on the whole, I think that's a helpful way to think about drawing. But it also can paralyze me when that relationship becomes too small and or complex. All of a sudden, I have, no knowledge, no tools, no muscle memory to get me through. And ultimately, I look down to see what I've made, and as is so often the case, it doesn't match what's in front of me. Or I guess more importantly, what was in my head. And that just reminds me of how critical it is to practice, which I don't. These flower drawings are pretty rare, which means I have these huge intervals between them where I'm not practicing them. And I think that shows. So do I hate this drawing? Yes. Did you expect me to say that? I think it's bad. I had a lot of fun making it, as I often do, but I just can't look at this and be proud of what I've done. It's almost like I should have moved in a lot closer or maybe moved back a few feet. Either way probably would have been better than this. Like had I plucked one of the little flowers and placed it on a sheet of paper, I think I could have done much better with that. But hey, even though I don't get much practice, this still counts, and maybe next time I'll be marginally better for it. If you like this video, go ahead and like it, and to see more of these, consider subscribing to the channel. I appreciate you for taking the time to watch this one, and I will see you soon. Thanks.